Good morning, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions you may have. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. This is a roll call for quorum for today's Transportation Safety Committee meeting. Shane Kieso from City of Apache Junction.
Present.
Craig Martin from Arizona Department of Public Safety. Mona Aglan as proxy for Kerry Wilcoxon from Arizona Department of Transportation.
I'm here.
Raj Thodon from City of Avondale.
He is here.
Craig Sharp as proxy for Frank Ganani from City of Buckeye.
Present.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Present.
Nick Russo from City of El Mirage. Glenn Robinson from Federal Highway Administration.
Good morning, I'm here.
Christopher Salas from Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton from Town of Gilbert. Tony Abo from City of Glendale.
Good morning, present.
Eric Sisek from City of Goodyear.
Present.
Jesse Torres from Governor's Office of Highway Safety. Kate Drunaski from City of Litchfield Park.
Present.
Carrie Osborne from City of Maricopa. Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County Department of Transportation.
Present.
Stephen Bob from City of Mesa. Austin Kennedy as proxy for Brandon Forey from City of Peoria.
Present.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone.
Tara Herman from Pinal County Public Works.
Good morning, I'm present.
Janet Martin from Town of Queen Creek. Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale. Stephen Chang as proxy for Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Present.
Michelle Bakley from City of Tempe.
Present.
Alice Ryan from University of Arizona. Adrian Ruiz from Valley Metro. Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee, that concludes our roll call, and we do have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our item number 2 is call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. Have we received any items? Ahmed?
Mr. Chair, we do not, we have not received any comments for this item.
Okay, so we have no comments, okay. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online comments for the call to audience?
Thank you, Chair. We have not received any written comments for the call to the audience.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shahid. Okay, so we will proceed to item number 3, which is the MAG staff report. This item that's on the agenda is for information and will be presented by Ms. Margaret Herrera, MAG Safety Engineering Program Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I would first like to invite Mr. Glenn Robeson from FHWA to give us a brief update.
Thank you, Margaret. Well, good morning. So just a quick update regarding the Safe Streets and Roads for All. So on May 17th, the awards were announced for the first round of fiscal year 24 planning and demonstration grants. Of the awards, there were 6 Arizona recipients totaling over $5 million. There were 2 cities, 1 town, 1 county, 1 MPO, and 1 tribal. And 4 of those were in the MAG region. Since 2022, there were 27 Arizona recipients that were awarded over $49 million in SS4A funding. Of those recipients, 25 were planning and demonstration grants and 2 implementation grants. So coming up is the final deadline for fiscal year 24 planning and demonstration grants. That's August 29th. So those that are interested need to make sure the applications are in prior to August 29th. And then additional fiscal year 24 SS4A awards are expected to be announced in August and November. So those will include some of the implementation grants that the deadline was, I believe it was May 16th, in addition to the planning and demonstration. There is a link up there, so for more information on the SS4A grant program, and then the agencies that were awarded grants in this first round for fiscal year 24 are listed. So Goodyear, Phoenix, Coconino County, Metro Plan, Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community, and then Fountain Hills. Those were the Arizona recipients for this first round. That's all I have.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. Next slide, please, Mohammed. So some updates on our 2023 and 2024 projects. As you can see, we have a couple of agenda items for, one is for the predictive safety. So just to note that that one's at about 50%, which is a good time, a mid-project update to the committee. We're going to be having Mohammed present that here in a little bit. The fiscal year 2023 Regional Priority Safety Implementation Toolkit project is also about 50%. We had an update a couple of months ago from Burgess and Eipel, who's working on that. We're working through getting that the draft tool and the web page completed, and we're excuse me, we're hoping to do starting some beta testing here in early summer through the beginning of the winter, and sorry, then we'll be turning that beta testing around. I have a scratch. My apologies. So hopefully we'll get that project up and running, or that toolkit up and running by next May. We're nearly complete on our fiscal year 2023 Safe Routes to School studies. I believe the only one that's kind of due for completion is the City of Peoria Safe Routes to School study. That one, if you may remember, has kind of a unique scope in that we're creating kind of a framework for a toolkit that could be used for education, engagement, and kind of a feedback loop from parents to the schools on to encourage more walking and biking to school. So that one has a little bit left. We're anticipating our new full year of crash data available for for calendar year 2023. And I do want to note here, those of you who have in the past received roadway safety funds, roadway safety program funds in the past, I've been pushing off getting those reports from you because we want to wait till we have the new calendar year of data so that we can include those in your reports. So you'll be seeing something about that from me right about the time we receive that new data. So be looking for those, and we'll have hopefully a report on the safety performance of those locations at the September meeting this year. In addition, the fiscal year 2024 Safe Routes to School studies are as well near completion. A lot of them we are looking at distributing the final action plans and reports for those. So those are nearly completed as well. And then for the fiscal year 2024 CME AZ, and this percentage indicates the contract that we have with the media consultant, although work in CME AZ is continuous, and we're also going to be having a presentation on that today from Mr. Gottsacker. We are almost in completion of the 2024 local agency safety study. That was a study done in the city of Scottsdale. And that report, I believe, is being reviewed by the RSA team. We hope to get that finished up here soon as well. We're doing some preliminary work for the Transportation Safety Action Plan, or formerly the Strategic Transportation Safety Plan. We're doing some work ahead of actually scoping for that project to get some input from our policy committees. This will have some really positive impact on a lot of the major planning efforts that are going on at MAG in anticipation of the event, or to fund some projects that also include safety elements in them that are not necessarily just dedicated safety projects. So the fiscal year 2024 RSAs are also nearly completion. Mohammed is working on a scope of work, and we're working on getting a fee proposal for the non-motorized user network screening tool that we're going to be putting together. And we're hoping that with that network screening, we can, right now, the network screening methodology for intersections is used to generate our top 100 list, as you know, and we've never really had a methodology for non-motorized users. So we're hoping that we can have that together as well by the end of the year to start doing non-motorized network screening. Next slide, please. And I'm going to invite Chris Gottsacker to give us some details on this, the 2024 Crossing Guard Training Workshops. As you can see on the slide, we do have 3 dates and 3 facilities that we've identified. July 22nd at Desert Ridge High School in Gilbert, July 25th at Indian School Memorial Hall in Phoenix, and August 8th at Rio Vista and Peoria. I'm going to have Chris give us an update. We did send out invitations to school district administrators, and I want to thank any of you who have distributed that. We did send it to you all as well as the 7-agency partnership that we have. We're hoping to get a press release out on that this week as well to kind of get the word out to the guards themselves. And I do believe we have an update on how many registrants we have so far, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Margaret, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. As Margaret mentioned, registration is now open. The invites have been sent out. We will be sending out, again, the press release hopefully soon. There will also be a reminder as we get sent out to the district, the school district administrators, again, as we get closer to the workshops themselves. As of this morning, we have, I think it was 87 guards registered. So very good start. I believe Peoria and Gilbert school districts are leading the charge. We're definitely looking forward to seeing that number shoot up a lot. We're already receiving lots of questions. If you all have any questions or are receiving any questions, you can either refer to the information that Margaret sent out, or you can just send them my way as well. I'm happy to work with any of you all. This is a really important training that we put on every year. It's highly anticipated. We've always received positive feedback from the guards as well as from our school districts. And yeah, massive thank you to folks from Peoria, Glendale, Surprise, Phoenix, Tempe, and Scottsdale that make up the trainers that help put on the workshops each year and are involved in the planning group as well. So yeah, thank you.
Sure. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to the town of Gilbert that has been helping us coordinate that Desert Ridge facility this year. So my apologies for not adding you to the bottom. Thank you. But we do want to make sure we recognize that help that we get every year. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Margaret. As this is just an informational item, there is going to be no action taken on item number 3. We'll move on to item number 4, approval of the April 23rd, 2024 meeting. Does any member of the committee have any questions on the meeting minutes that were sent out for the meeting that was on April 23rd, 2024? Okay, hearing none, prior to the approval of the meeting minutes, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. Don't believe we've received any comments, correct? Thank you, Mr. Shahid. And so staff, have we received any online written comments for this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not received any online written comments for this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Shahid. All righty, since we have not received any, is there a motion to approve agenda item number 4?
Nazim Muradovich, Maricopa County DOT. I move to approve agenda item for April 23rd, 24 meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
Shane with Apache Junction seconds.
We have a motion from Nazim Muradovich to approve the to approve agenda item number 4, and a second from Shane Kiso. We will have those participating in the meeting online take part of in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their camera, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Can I have a voice vote for those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Members, please leave on your camera. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a roll call vote for the members opting not to turn on their camera. Ward Stanford from City of Avondale.
Aye. Oh,
And
hang on.
that is it. Yeah, and Stephen Chang as proxy for Dana Oceani from City of Surprise.
Abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the roll call.
Okay, the meeting minutes for our meeting on April 23rd, 2024 is approved. We'll move on to item number 5, an update on the MAG 2023 Predictive Safety Implementation Project. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Mr. Mohammed Shahid, MAG Transportation Engineer 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. I'm here to present an update on the 2023 Predictive Safety Implementation Project for the MAG region. As you know, we started this project last year, mid last year, with the help from Connecticut Transportation Safety Research Center by contracting them for this project. So today's presentation is gonna give you a high-level update on where we are at and what are the remaining items that needs to be implemented for finishing up this project. So as you can see, the project objective was to basically implement a highway safety manual-based predictive safety analysis at the network level in the MAG region for the arterial, and arterial connector intersections. Just to note that, you know, for this project, we considered the intersections in the MAG region. That's also for arterial and collector at this point of time. And also one point to emphasize is that, you know, this project is being implemented for network level analysis at this point. In the future, we may go to do project level analysis, but at this time it's network level so that, you know, it can complement the current network screening process that we have in place here in MAG. So the final deliverable for this project is basically a web-based tool that can be used by MAG and MAG member agencies, a web-based tool that will consist of 4 main modules, namely network screening, diagnosis, countermeasure selection, and economic appraisal. As you can see, these 4 modules are basically mimicking 4 of the steps in the highway safety manual for highway safety management process that's being adopted by many agencies nationwide nowadays. So this is just a component, tool component screenshot. I'll just go into more detail, you know, in the later slides to show you each of the modules: network screening, model diagnosis, countermeasure selection, and economic appraisal. So one of the main challenges for implementing this type of tool anywhere in the nation is basically the requirement of the data, as this process is heavily data intensive, as you can see. So at the beginning of the project and as of now, most resources have been expended on basically, you know, collecting the data, assembling the data, and basically, you know, preparing a data set that can be used in a meaningful way, not only to, you know, develop an intersection database for the MAG region, but also to make sure that data can be used for development of safety performance function or SPFs or prediction models for different types of intersections in the MAG region. As you can see, for this data collection effort, we did collect data for 3 components. One is for crash data, one is basically the traffic volume data, which is basically ADD or entering volume for the intersections, and obviously we need to have the intersection geometry data. So the crash data, we obviously got it from Arizona Crash Information System. maintained by Arizona Department of Transportation, which is also the main source of data that we use for our MAG RTSIMS database. We also got the traffic volume data or ADD data from ADOT's Highway Performance Monitoring System, and also the MS2 data repository that's being maintained by MAG for the MAG region traffic count data. Just to mention that ADOT also has a MS2 portal where all the MPOs basically report their traffic count data to populate that repository. And obviously, we got the intersection geometry data for the MAG region for all the different types of intersections from ADOT's GIS group. Primarily, we deployed the junction database for this purpose as we are dealing with intersection in this project. As you can see, some of the main information that we collected for the intersection geometry were the geolocation of each of the intersections, the geometry, the functional classes, etc. As we are not going into the project level detail for this project, we didn't collect many of the detailed intersection information, for example, like how many lanes for each of the approaches or how many left turn lanes, those type of information. But those information are needed when we do a project level analysis. So once we collected the data, we prepared the 3 types of data, which are crash data, as you can see, traffic volume data, and intersection geometry data by GIS data processing. We used ArcGIS-based tool for this purpose, ArcGIS Pro and some other, advanced tool to come up with a processed intersection database, which consisted the intersection information, the crashes for those intersections, and also the traffic volume data for each of the intersections that we basically mapped in the MAG region. Once we have this processed intersection database, as you can see, we prepared the data so that we can actually develop the safety performance functions for different types of intersections in the MAG region. We use the processed intersection database to develop 2 types of safety performance function. As you can see, the most commonly used negative binomial a safety performance function, and another formulation that we use, which is basically the latest one based on a recent NCHRP research report, the Poisson log normal models, which formulation we're going to be using that depends on the prediction accuracy of each of the SPFs for each of the facility types. As you can see, the SPFs were developed for different injury severity levels and also different facility types. Some of the facility types that we actually included are basically urban 4-stop stop controlled, 3-leg stop controlled, and urban 4-leg signalized, 5-leg signalized, and 3-leg signalized. We also considered some of the rural intersection types. For example, we considered the rural 4-leg and 3-leg stop control. We also considered the rural signalized 4-leg and 3-leg stop control. But just to give you a heads up that those sample numbers were really low, but we still went ahead and basically developed the SPF. But when we use those SPF in the future or coming months, we need to basically, exercise some caution because the sample size for those rural signalized intersections are really low and basically coming with a sample size which is less than the prescribed sample size for the highway safety manual. But we still went ahead and developed those to include in our tool. So once we have the SPFs, as you know, now that we have the SPFs, we are in the network screening module development. As you can see, the network screening module, you can start the network screening module by basically selecting from which year to which year you want to conduct your analysis. You can select the sites by local agencies. You can include your agency, or you can include multiple agencies, or you can include the whole MAG region. And obviously, you can do the network screening based on the injury severity level, starting from the fatal to PDO. And we have included multiple performance measures for the network screening model. So when you see the network screening result as part of this module, you can actually select your performance measure. The performance measures can be actually starting from very simple crash frequency, crash rate, to the very advanced level of safety service and some of the expected excess safety performance based on EB adjustment and also EB adjusted crash frequency. And whatever performance measure that you select, you can actually, your site ranking result will be presented based on those performance measure ranking. Just to give you a note for the audience about this presentation, that maybe, it's a little difficult to show you the detail for the screenshot that I'm showing here. But I will try to explain, what is included in each of this module with the screenshot, because at this point, it's still in the development phase. That's why at this time, we are not able to actually show you the real demo. But once we will be in the testing phase, we should be able to actually, show you the demo for each of the modules for the tool. As you can see, for the network screening, I'll use my pointer. Here you can actually, select your year start and year end. This is basically the region that you can actually select in the MAG region, multiple agencies, the whole MAG region, or any number of agencies that you want to include. This first column at the bottom, it shows basically the agencies, the name of the agencies. And based on the, performance measure you select at the very end, 2 or 3 columns, you will see basically the crash rates. You will see the different performance measures here and the ranking based on that performance measure. So this is a high level, overview of the network screening model, which is right now in development process. I can show you a little bit of, zoomed in version where, for example, if you are selecting the city of Phoenix, and if you are selecting the 2015 to 2019 analysis period, and you are selecting all severities of crashes, and you are selecting aggressive driving related crashes, your result will basically show you based on the performance measure that you have selected here, which is excess expected crash frequency using SPF, and it will show you a color scheme in the map. And also it will give you the results in a table formulation about what are the highest risk, medium risk, and lowest risk sites in the city of Phoenix area. Again, just a note of caution that still in development phase, we are still doing a lot of testing and basically trying to come up with the optimal version of this model. But network screening model and diagnosis module are the 2 modules which are actively in development phase, and the later modules, as those are related to the completion of these 2 modules, those will be developed once these 2 modules are completed. This is again the diagnosis module, as you can see. For the diagnosis module, again, I'll just try to give you a very high level overview. As you can see, some of the main thing from the diagnosis module is basically once you are done with the network screening, you can basically see an overview of the crashes that are basically experienced for the sites that you have found from the network screening model. It will also show you some of the crash pattern and visualization for the sites that you have actually selected from the network screening model. And once you do that, it will show you basically the crash data and the test of proportion for the sites. As you can see, my pointer shows these are the sites. So what we mean by the test of proportion is basically that's a prescribed method for basically showing what are the sites for the MAG region, or maybe if you select MAG region, it's for the MAG region, but if you select your agency only, it's your agency. So this portion will basically show you based on the test of proportion what sites in your region or in your local agency are overrepresented in terms of specific types of crashes or specific severity of crashes. Based on that, you can basically say that, okay, this these sites are experiencing higher number of crashes based on, based on higher number of crashes when I compare the average number of crashes for similar sites in the MAG region or in your specific agency. So this has been pretty useful and proven technique for showing sites of promises for your local agency or for the region, and basically coming up with sites which may be considered for safety improvements. So this is a high-level overview of the diagnosis module, and obviously this is the one that comes following the diagnosis module. So this module basically allows the user to visualize, filter, and select countermeasures once you have the network screening and basically the diagnosis step completed. As you can see, as part of this effort, what we have done is basically we have not only considered the CMF clearinghouse that's available nationally, but we have also considered the MAG recommended countermeasures that were basically, included in the RSA reports for the RSA that has been done in the last 10 years for the MAG region. So what we are doing is basically we are trying to see like if the MAG region countermeasures are already in common with the CMF based clearinghouse countermeasures. If those are the same, then we are basically merging them. But if we see that, there is a reasonable or, significant number of countermeasures in the MAG region as part of the MAG RSA process is different from what we have in the CMF clearinghouse, which is pretty much unlikely because most of the MAG recommended countermeasures in the MAG RSA reports are basically coming from the national clearinghouse. We will consider if we see there's a significant difference, then we will consider a separate section where you can actually select the MAG recommended countermeasures and basically go on from there. As you can see, these are the countermeasure database. We have multiple countermeasure here, and we also have countermeasure category. By countermeasure category, we means like you can actually select the countermeasure category based on what type of crashes or safety problem you are basically trying to address. For example, if you are trying to come up with countermeasure for pedestrian-related crashes or left-turn crashes or angle crashes or any other types of crashes or safety problems. And you can also, as a user, select the countermeasure based on some other criteria, which are basically primarily focusing on CMF clearinghouse. For example, if you want to select only the CMFs which are 4-star or 5-star, if you are trying to select CMF based on, the source, or you are trying to basically select CMF based on some other criteria, all is included here. We will include that for the users. So once you select countermeasures for the sites that you have actually selected based on the result from your network screening, you will go to the final module, which is basically the economic appraisal. As you can see here again, in this slide, as you can see, it's a little difficult to see, but this rectangle actually shows a countermeasure that we have selected. This countermeasure has a CMF with all the information, for example, the service year and the rate of return that you want to include based on the number of crashes that this site has experienced or this number of sites have experienced. You can come up with the project benefits for different severity level of the crashes. And finally, you can come up with the economic analysis result, which will give you the benefit cost ratio based on these inputs. One point to note here is that, once this tool will have the capability to select multiple countermeasures for a project or for a site. For example, if you see that, one of your selected site can be benefited from selecting multiple countermeasures, you can actually include that, and it will actually show you the results based on considering multiple countermeasures and give you a BC ratio based on the calculation of taking into account the multiple countermeasures and combining those multiple countermeasures into a combined benefit to calculate the benefit cost ratio. So Once you do that, that's basically the end of the module, and you can actually use the results that you basically, get from this tool for various purposes. I have provided some example here. Obviously, this is not the exhaustive list, but for example, you can use the results from this tool for system planning. If you need to apply for HSIB or federal grant or competitive program grant, you can actually use this tool for specific, site or for a specific safety countermeasures to basically use the results and basically include that in your project application. It also shows you basically the sites, as I told you already, that, it shows the sites most likely to benefit from the safety improvement. And obviously it identified crash pattern for different types of crashes or different severity of crashes for the whole network. For project planning purpose, as I already mentioned, that this is a network level analysis tool. What you can identify from this tool is basically you can, for a specific site, you can at least see the targeted crash pattern for the projects that you are basically considering for a site or for a number of sites. And also you can actually identify crash pattern at an existing location that's of your interest. And obviously the prioritization of projects, you can consider multiple safety countermeasures for multiple sites or a number of sites, and basically prioritize your projects based on the economic analysis and compare the different countermeasures based on the final results once you have actually utilized all the modules in this tool. And basically you can select the appropriate countermeasures based on the input that you provide to the tool. With that being said, just to provide you a brief timeline of the project, as you can see right now, a significant time has already been spent for the data collection, data mapping, data preparation, and developing the safety performance function or the prediction models for this project. Now that we have the safety performance function developed for this project, we are in the process of basically deploying and testing the network screening and the diagnosis module. Once we have this two module, testing and fine tuning done, we will right away jump into the countermeasure selection, because we cannot develop the countermeasure selection tool unless or until we have the up to the diagnosis module developed. And the countermeasure selection module is fairly simple to deploy and implement compared to the first two modules. So once we reach here, we are planning to deploy the countermeasure module and the economic appraisal module at the same time, and hopefully wrap up this project by the end of September this year. And just to let you know that, once we are done with the testing and the fine tuning, we will provide you an update in the September Safety Committee meeting. And based on the update, if you have any comments or questions, or if you like to include something or, see something, we can still do that. But that will be done in September. But in the meantime, we will consult with our TAG, the technical advisory group that we have in place for this project, to, have their feedback once we have the initial deployment done, so that they can do the testing and some feedback we get from them to do the fine tuning and finalize the project. So stay tuned, and we will give you some update and demonstration once we will be at the finishing point of this project. So if you have any comment at that point, we can incorporate those in the final version of the tool. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to take any questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Do any members have a question or comment? And I know I have at least one question, so I will ask it. Did you say the crash data set that you got was from 15 to 19? Is that what I heard you say? No, go ahead.
No, we actually considered crash data from 2015 to 2022. So basically, the example that I showed you, that considered only the crash data year from 2015 to 2019. So when you are in the network screening module as a user, you can select any number of years that you want to include in your analysis. You can include 1 year, 2 year, or multiple years, or as many years as available in the network screening tool. At this moment, we are developing the tool based on crash data from 2015 to 2022, but the plan is to basically update the tool every year once the new crash data becomes available. For example, right now we don't have the 2023 data available. Once it becomes available, we will update it, similar to the fashion that we update our MAG RTSIMS data annually.
Okay, I just was concerned, or my concern was relating to if we had done a recent improvement, a safety improvement, either, by incorporating some information or some recommendations from an RSA, how would that all fit in? So I think you've answered my question.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so that's an excellent question also. So we are going to be updating our crash data every year, but as you just mentioned, like there may be sites where you have done some geometric improvement and the site may have changed. So although it's very resource intensive to update the geometric information every year, but our plan is to do it every 2 to 3 years so that, the recent changes that have been implemented on the sites can be actually reflected in the tool.
Thank you, Mohammed. Do any members have any questions or comments? Yes, Mona.
I have a question. Mohammed, you said that your source of the crash reduction factors is Federal Highway Clearinghouse, and then there's the other source of the RSCs that already conducted. Are these countermeasures that identify on the RSCs conducted in MAG region? Did you do before and after, or how did you determine the crash reduction factors for those?
So when I say that, MAG region RSA countermeasures, those are the countermeasures prescribed as part of the RSA that were conducted at those sites. So we consider our MAG RSA program around 100 RSAs we have conducted in the last 10 years. So for the sites where those RSAs were conducted, we basically, took those recommendations or countermeasures that were basically included and trying to see if those are already included in the CMF clearinghouse. And obviously, as you just mentioned, those RSA countermeasures that were prescribed or recommended as part of the RSA process, most of those have CMF values.
Oh.
So those are already included in our RSA report. So
another question, do you know if anyone from ADOT has access or will have access to this tool?
yes, when we are done with the final deployment, our plan is basically to, give access to the MAG member agencies. The way it will work is it's a web-based tool. So you will have to have a login credential. So the login credentials will be issued by MAG, and MAG IT will be in charge of basically maintaining this tool, similar to the MAG RTSIMS tool that we have in place right now. Once you have a username and password, you should be able to use it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Nazim Radovich, Mirkapakan DOT. Thank you, Mohammed, for such a great effort, Mr. Chair and Margaret. I think it's much needed, and I'm glad you guys are taking initiative. Just a quick question regarding the SPF, the safety performance function calculations. Were these based on a severe crash categories, or were they severe, or basically on total crashes?
So as I mentioned, we have actually, a lots of safety performance functions developed as part of this process. So we have the SPFs developed by crash injury severity. So for example, we have safety performance functions developed for all severity injury, and we also have for KNA, which is basically the fatal and suspected serious injury. We also have KA and B, which combines the fatal, suspected serious injury, and suspected, a minor injury. And then we also have the, the KABC also. So we have all possible combinations of SPFs developed as part of this process, and users should be able to, choose whatever injury severity they want to consider when they start the network screening process.
Oh, thank you for that. Just one follow-up question, please, regarding the countermeasures as relates to the clearinghouse. And definitely we have a wealth of information available. It would be at some point nice, great at some point to have something related to Arizona experience with the crash regression factor based on a countermeasure. So I'm looking forward to see more of a comment on this one. Is like you're definitely using the regional or the national values right now, but at some point maybe if we have enough data locally within the MAG region, is to maybe implement that as the I call it the Arizona experience, which would be really beneficial to us because it would be nice to see the difference between local versus regional as far as the values are concerned. Thank you for the effort.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mazen, and I totally agree with you. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to jump in on Mazen's, and he makes a really good point. And not just with this, but also if you can imagine all those roadway safety program projects will be going through a before and after, right? And so there may be a good sample of a single improvement type that's been funded with those that we would have a sampling for to do something like that. But we're going to need a lot bigger sample, I think, for a lot of these things. We may have some large sample for something like the flashing yellow arrow, right? Or the correction of negative offset, negative zero offset. We might have some good samples of that. So to your point, that's something that we can look at in the future using that data plus, you know, Mohammed's project here.
I agree, and thank you for clarifying that further. We in the county have been using the friction course sample, if you will, and work with ADOT safety group to try maybe to develop something related to that part of it with the SPF or the reduction factor. And obviously we don't have enough data yet, but we are working on developing more projects to that. And you know, my point on this for sure is it's the more data, the better, the more valid results you will have. So we are open to any kind of help we could provide from all different local agencies to provide any data if necessary. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from any of the members? Hearing none, as this is an informational item, no action is going to be taken or needed. I'll move on to item number 6, development of CME AZ strategic plan. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Chris Gottsacker, MAG Transportation Engineer. To Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. Yeah, so today I'll be providing an update on CME AZ. We'll start with some background, get into the implementation for this fiscal year, and then where we're heading next with that development of the strategic plan and evaluation framework. So all of us on this committee are aware of the problem of pedestrian and bicyclist crashes in the region. Here are some numbers. This is a 103.5% increase from 2013 to 2022 in pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities. This is one pedestrian and cyclist dying every other day, just about, over the last 10 years on average. When we include injuries, it's one person killed or injured every 3.8 hours on average. CME AZ began development in 2017 in response to plan for a Governor's Office of Highway Safety funding application to develop materials for that application. It turned out that the GOES avenue wasn't going to be the most appropriate, but we were able to pivot, and CME AZ was included as a subtask in the 2019 update to the Strategic Transportation Safety Plan. So at that point, we formed a task force We hired a media consultant, began creating materials. We've been conducting an annual survey. And recently, we've been working with Rutgers University as part of the Federal Highway Administration focused approach to safety. And so through that effort with the focused approach to safety is how we're developing the strategic plan and that evaluation framework. And obviously, road users are an element of the safe system approach, so this fits really well as a subtask for the strategic transportation safety plan. Next slide, please. So implementation this fiscal year for media. As a little bit of background refresher, we have 4 areas where we've developed materials for a kind of like general creative materials, driving, creative materials, walking, and biking. So far, and this is through mid-May, and we're going through the end of May, but we have 7.2 million people viewing the materials, views by category. So the left column is for our digital advertisements that you would see on a screen, basically. And then the right column is those materials that are either viewed on a TV screen over the top or radio. And so these are separate because they use different KPIs, key performance indicators. So for the digital advertisements, we have an engagement rate of 0.45%, and our listen through rate and watch through rate. So the percentage of people that have viewed the entire advertisement is over 97%. Both of these are very high. We're really happy with those, and this relates to more than 27,000 people have gone from the advertisement to our landing pages for CME-AZ to learn more about the program, and over 1 million people have basically listened to the entire advertisement. Next slide, please. So we've also been focusing a lot on outreach as part of this program. So some recent examples this fiscal year, I've presented to a few groups coordinating with our human services program. And so through that, these different services have reached out, and they've been able to spread the materials for their own use. So for instance, there's a group that does driver or pickups basically for elderly or people who need assistance for different appointments. And so they've distributed the materials to all of their drivers. They include it as part of their training now. We're also invited to present at Phoenix Modern. It's a school in the Phoenix area. So some of their middle schoolers were doing a project to learn more about pedestrian safety. And so had the opportunity to present to them. And then finally, and most exciting this year, we've developed 4 new testimonial videos. We worked with John Dollar as part of the John Dollar Foundation. He reached out to us, and we kind of formed this partnership, and he was able to identify 4 cyclists or people related to cyclists that have been impacted by crashes. And so we'll actually play one of these videos now. It's just over a minute. All of the videos are on our website, so highly encourage you all to watch them if you have a time. I think the longest one is just 1.5 minutes, so pretty short. That was one thing that we wanted to focus on for the development of these, and you can share these freely. So just if you post it on Twitter, do a hashtag CME-AZ to help get the word out a little bit more. But yeah, Mohammed, you can play this.
I think a key distinction between me and many other cyclists out there is that I ride to get around. A lot of drivers think that when I'm on a bike, I'm riding for fun, but I'm not. I'm riding to get to my job, get to school, and other places where I need to go to the grocery store. What the? Hello. I think what happens as far as drivers bullying cyclists on the road is that drivers often think about things in terms of what's convenient for them. I think drivers should be more understanding. Sometimes drivers often trivialize cycling because they don't see it as anything else other than a toy. But for a person like me, I'm on the road with my bike because I need to get to my job. We all share responsibility. Be aware, be seen, be safe.
I was in a construction zone.
Yeah, we can go back.
There was no passing and the vehicle.
So yeah, thank you again. We have 3 other interviews that we recorded. And so there are 2 that are recounting crashes where they're hit by a driver. And then the last one is John Dollar giving information about his experience losing his son, who was an avid cyclist in the Phoenix region. So we really wanted to hit kind of an emotional aspect, but then also educate. I mean, in this video that we showed during this committee meeting, Ken's case, where not everyone is just riding for sports or leisure, like it's his primary mode of transportation. And he has that full setup because he's experienced time and time again how he can have near misses. And so for he sent us a video or a large file. He has hundreds of near misses that we had to review and just pick out. So with that, we can go to the next slide. All right, so we've also been conducting an annual survey. This year, the survey was live from April 24th to May 9th. We had 577 completed surveys. There was 31 from a link made available for MAG and our member agencies to share. This may seem like a small amount of completed surveys, but it is enough for us to have a good idea of regional demographics or matching regional demographics and be able to get some statistically valid analysis conducted. That report for this year's survey is still being produced. However, early indications are that program recall is increasing. So one of the questions that we ask is, have you heard of CME-AZ? Where did you hear of it, if so? And so that number historically has been relatively low, but our consultant or a sub-consultant for the survey has indicated that that number is higher this year, which is fantastic. The survey was developed by MAG staff, the task force, and the media consultant all working closely together. That was a really long process. And we've made slight tweaks year to year. However, we've been able to maintain comparability each year because the actual, what we're asking is staying the same. We're just finding better ways to word the questions or make the survey a little bit more efficient. And the survey can be available upon request, as well as all the materials for this program, by the way. So if you would like to see anything in detail, definitely willing to share with you all. Next slide, please. All right, so getting into Focused Approach to Safety, or FAS. This is the work with Rutgers University through Federal Highway Administration. At the last update for CME-AZ to this committee, this table was included in that presentation. They identified several categories for strategies to implement. So looking at available data, engaging in the most effective ways, using location targeting, using enforcement, focus on education for behaviors and laws, and then also coupling the program with engineering changes. So these are kind of noted with if the strategy is already in use, if it's planned for use, and out of scope of the program. So the engineering aspect is kind of out of scope of this program. However, I do want to note, and I'll touch on this in a later slide, The program can be much more effective if we do tie it with some engineering changes as well. And again, I'll get into more details on that. And then a little asterisk on location targeting plan for use. We have since implemented that already in at least one way so far. So next slide, please. All right, so Rutgers University conducted a literature review. And so I crammed a lot of information on this slide, and there's a lot more that I can discuss more if you all have questions or would like to know about something specific. Definitely happy to answer those during this committee meeting or offline. So data suggests that the effectiveness for crash reduction and self-reported behaviors is there for education or media campaigns. It does vary though, and there's tons and tons of campaigns out there, but there's limited evaluation to gauge the effectiveness of them. So, but still with that limited data, we're able to say that there is some confidence in that these can be effective. The most effective campaigns focus on rational or emotional messaging. And a little note on the emotional, we don't mean kind of like the shock and awe messaging. That's oftentimes what some people want to go through, and we've discussed this a lot with our task force. That can be effective, but it's not. The data shows that it isn't effective for all demographic groups. And in particular, it's least effective or even adversely effective for one of our target groups, which is young men. So we can use emotion, but we need to stay away from the shock messaging. It's also been found that these campaigns are more effective if they're tied directly to engineering and enforcement. So for instance, if there's a change to intersection geometry, there has to be an education component to that anyways. If you can tie specifically CME AZ to those changes and that education as well, it can improve the performance of the whole program, right? And then also tying to enforcement for very specific shorter term enforcement, targeted enforcement can be more effective as well. Targeted messaging, you can segment the population, so focus on just young men, for instance. You can focus on locations of high crash history. And so we currently target based on age range. We do, our gender split for targeting is 50-50. And then we also break down advertisements on language, so English and Spanish. Interestingly, the Spanish engagement tends to be higher for most of our campaigns, but not always. And then we also, like I mentioned, have implemented targeting for locations based on fatal pedestrian and bike crash history. So next slide has a heat map for this. So we can I've kind of circled the hotspots that we're using. So the two on the right, the two rightmost are actually grouped together for our purposes, because when we're implementing the location targeting, you can only put so many dollars towards each thing or each group, and we don't want to spread it too thin or we lose the impact. And so our early indications are that we do have some higher engagement for some of our media tactics in these focus areas. So that's been really promising. Next slide, please. All right, so during our last task force meeting with Rutgers and our member partners, we wanted to focus on community-focused communication, seeking to answer the questions of how can we best support member agencies? What do you all need or want through this program? And what can we do to keep the messaging effective year to year? Next slide, please. So through that discussion, the task force members brought up several points. So these first two are really related: a regional list of economic stats, including like the cost to repair damage to infrastructure from crashes, for instance, and just the cost of crashes. We can really hammer in on that economic factor as part of the education. And that can be sent out to city managers as well as for the media. And these fact sheets for managers and media can be different. Really focusing on the valley-wide coordination and knowledge transfer. So the knowledge transfer part it can relate to CME-AZ, but there was our task force members also indicated that, if we try something to change intersection geometry and we find that it really works, making sure that we're transferring that knowledge to peer agencies throughout the region is really important. We can also work with nonprofits to reach underserved communities and develop information and material for various purposes. I know that one's a little bit vague, but really wanted to capture what was discussed during that.
Yeah, I specifically, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee, on this last bullet point, I wanted to point out that the task force members, and you may have experiences with this yourself, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to bring it to the committee today, to get even wider input from you all and not just those that are on the task force. But that there are members of the community that want to advocate. And if we provide them with that information, the materials to do that, they can actually be a great resource for doing that advocacy on their own. So I think that's a big part of this, to get this more broadly used in the messaging and quite frankly, the tips that are within the CME-AZ program in educating those safety issues and how to interact with other modes safely.
Thank you, Margaret. And I'll add, so CME-AZ materials are pretty wide ranging in focus. And we have had member agencies reach out saying, hey, we're wanting to do our own campaign focused on maybe drunk driving. And we have some materials about that, but we can certainly develop more. And we have resources to tweak our own materials. And the only thing we don't have funding for is printing of those materials. So that would have to come from you all, but we can certainly redevelop some of our materials and create new materials as well to help you all out. So just because, our current materials only have maybe like 2 or 3 social media ads developed for that specific use case, we can certainly develop more and work with you to develop more. So next slide, please. All right, so how to keep messaging effective. Be mindful of attention spans. Attention spans are just getting lower and lower, it seems like, right? So that's why for the 4 testimonial videos, the longest one is like 1:32 seconds or something like that. And we also have 15 and 30-second versions of those that we have been using for some of our ad placements as well. We need to constantly monitor message reception to inform the targeting, as well as making sure that we're updating our heat map to see if maybe the locations that we can target shift a little bit year to year. We need to continue measuring the impact. How are agencies actually using the materials? So we do track all of the requests for the materials already, but we'd like to follow up with agencies, I guess, a bit more to really see were the materials actually, did they end up being used, and what was the impact of that use? And then also the task force members pointed out that we could develop materials focused more for like visitors or the part-time residents or the aging population as well. Because currently we don't have really anything focused on that. We have, for instance, we last year for the Super Bowl, we made sure that we were in markets around like before, during, and after the Super Bowl, knowing that there would be a lot more visitors. So we got a lot more eyes on the program materials, but we didn't, and we developed some new materials, but it was kind of more tying into the big game and not necessarily, hey, did you know XYZ? So next slide, please. Oh, so yes, finally, MAG staff are leading the development for the CMAZ strategic plan. This will be done in close coordination with the task force and the focused approach to safety team. We're anticipating this to be done in August 2024, and then Rutgers University will review it. Rutgers University staff are developing the evaluation framework, which will be tied to the strategic plan. And yeah, again, this is going to all be in close coordination with the task force members to make sure that it's what the region needs and wants. And yeah, we're really excited to undertake this work, and all of the previous information that I've just presented will kind of be feeding into that strategic plan as well. So I think that's all I have. So happy to take any questions from members of the task force now, or if you have any later, I'm definitely willing to talk offline too.
I got a question, Mr. Chair, Margaret and Chris, thank you very much for this informative and very much needed and difficult task you guys are undertaking. So we'll do the best we can. Couple of things I just want to ask you a question about regarding the engagement part of it. And I saw the data statistics with regard to that. So this basically informing the public about this available material online that they can go and look at, and reviewing the videos. Example was a good one. Is there an opportunity for them to reach out to us to voice concern of certain locations, which is, I know it could get out of hand maybe, but is there such a thing that you guys considering, or are we allowing that to happen from the public?
Members of the safety committee, transportation safety committee, Mazen, thank you for the question. I know Margaret may have some thoughts on this, but we did discuss that early on. Right now, there is no avenue for members of the public to kind of like point on a map on the CMAZ page. They can request, fill out the form at the bottom, which member agency staff, we request them to do to request the material, so they can contact us that way. However, the webpage is also on the MAG website. So there are other pages where they, like I believe, I don't know if it's still up, I guess, for Momentum or for Active Transportation Plan. There's opportunities for them to, if they explore other pages on the website. I don't have metrics. If they've, I mean, our communications team could probably pull metrics if they are arrived at the CMAZ page, where did they go from there? But I don't know that offhand. So yeah.
No, thanks for that. Just related to the heat map, I think that's a great idea. And the example you showed us for certain areas, that were these based on the most critical locations, or maybe trouble area that you think that have a lot of related incident, or were they, how did you pick those locations? And I think the more of these would actually bring out the idea to the public that, hey, you travel this road, there's a lot of issues, be careful. So that's a good thing. How are they seeing that, if you don't mind, the public?
Sure. Yeah. Members of the Transportation Safety Committee, Mazen, good question as well. And I think I may have skipped over this part. So we looked at the hotspots created by the last 5 years of fatal pedestrian and bicycle crashes in the region. And then we just looked at where those hotspots are. And on that heat map, I overlaid the different zip codes. And so we just pulled out the zip codes that those hotspots touch. And so we have dollars allocated to push messaging to people in these zip codes. We can go even more fine grained, like we can make that geofence pretty much an intersection, but for now, we're just keeping it at the zip code level. So that we're being sure that we're getting the message to enough different people. And we don't necessarily want to, like, there's even the option to send like push notifications to people on certain apps and stuff, but we don't really want to do that because we don't want to distract people as they're traveling. So, and it's, you're still only catching a certain small section of the population. They have to be using like a certain app or something like that. I'm not exactly sure on the details of it, but yeah, we can get very fine grained. Right now, we're just focusing on zip codes.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I guess Mazen was very excited that he didn't even give me the opportunity to open it up for questions. So nothing that is bad there. I appreciate your, your passion for that. And I have to say one thing. The other day, I was watching the news, and one thing that intrigued me, or one thing that attracted my attention was, and I don't know if some of you had seen this, but they had this program, I guess, for where they took the bus drivers out of the buses, okay, the school bus drivers, put them on a bike, and the bike can sway one way or the other. And they had people in a bus, the bus that they were driving, had people coming right by them, and you see most of these drivers, or most of the bus drivers leaning, I mean, when they realize that. And I think that was just to show the bus drivers to, hey, give space. And I think that was where it hits home. The other thing I want to, comment on, and I think it's, I see people, education, you said that, and education, I think is very paramount. I see people riding against traffic, and believe me, even in my neighborhood, and I want to get them, I want to at least, sometimes communicate to them, but in this day and age, you never know when somebody can go ballistic on you just because they think, you're trying to correct them or something, which is the case. But I think that has, the education has a long way to go. And I think reaching some of the students, I think that will, I think that is a time to do it, or when they're going to get their driver's license. And the last thing I want to comment on is, I think at the same time that we're trying to educate the people, we got to try to educate our practitioners, and one thing, for me in the city of Glendale, I've been, fighting hard to do, detached sidewalks, detached wider sidewalks, to nothing that I can't stand that I'm walking in my neighborhood and I see people walking in the bike lane, and that just, and the reason they do that is because the bike lane is wider than the sidewalk, and for whatever reason, even sometimes when I'm riding a bike, I come across these people, and they will not go into single file, forcing me to go into traffic. I think that's one of those things I think we should continue to do is. And I believe MAG had brought this, the class 1 or 2 times before, or I think it maybe have been LTAP also, to bring the bike and pedestrian education, or continue that for our younger engineers, so they get to design these roads, making, trying to solve the problem is one thing, but let's make sure that our designs are forgiving, and our design encourage safety. And I think that will go also a long way. So thank you. I know it was long-winded, but just like Mazen, I'm very passionate about this. And, one fatality is one too many. So thank you. Any other comments, questions for anybody else? Hearing none, it's so this is an informational item. There's no action that will be taken. And, once again, Chris, that was an excellent presentation, and thank you. The next item, number 7, is the request for future agenda items. Are there any requests from committee members for items on future agenda? Any items? I know we have one item that I had asked Margaret is to put the Alive at 25 in one of the future agendas, and that's a program that the city of Glendale is doing, targeting high school kids. So I think it will be good, beneficial for us to share our experience with the region. So anything else? Any other agenda items?
Mr. Chair, just to jump in really quick, it may be an error in your specific agenda, but Mohammed, if you could go back one slide. Reports by committee members.
Skip that. Oh, I go from 6 to 7. Okay, must be an error on my thing, but
Did you want a request for?
yeah, we can make that 7B. How is that? Okay. Let's just continue on this one. If there's nothing for future agenda items, we can go around, and if anybody has any updates, we can go ahead and do that. Mona?
For future items, is that would be in the June meeting? Or it could be July?
Probably September. We are thinking right now that the July meeting will be canceled. And this committee meets every other month, every odd month, so we don't have a regular June scheduled meeting anyway, so probably for September.
Okay, we would like to report at that time on the safety targets.
Okay. And yes, I believe we have you historically, I always have my ADOT historical agenda items in their respective months, so I think I already have you on there.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, we'll go then, what I called 7B, or what's shown up there on your slides as item 7, any reports by committee members? And do we want Mohammed to go and call out agency by agency, but we'll start off here with in the room. Shane?
Yeah, thanks, Tony Shane with City of Apache Junction. This last month, we activated a new traffic signal on South Ironwood down by Ray Avenue. So it's our first traffic signal in many years with Apache Junction. I've reported to this committee in years past that Ironwood down south has always been a dangerous corridor. We do have a master plan community that's currently developing down there, so it's really changing the dynamics of the corridor. So this is the first signal of possibly, I think 3 more possibly being activated this fall, this winter on that corridor. So we are anxious to see again, safety along this corridor and the improvements are results of the master plan community down south. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Buckeye doesn't have anything to report at this point.
Okay, as far as Glendale goes, we have just one quick announcement on this Thursday, where it'll be the 30th. We'll be opening bids for 2 projects and 2 RSP projects. Those are the improvements to Olive and 61st Avenue Signal, as well as the lighting on Olive between 59th and 67th. And both those projects were combined and put into one just because they're in the same area. So I'm hoping that we have better luck than when we put out the flashing yellow arrow, or with ADOT's help putting the flashing yellow arrow. Was a $2.8 million project. Unfortunately, there were no bidders on that project. So people must not be hungry out there these days. So I'm working with ADOT to try to get another re-advertisement, and we're trying to strategize if we should wait a little bit longer before we re-advertise the project. So it's surprising, 2.8 million, and so, but anyway, I'll turn it over to Mazen.
Thank you. Nazim Radovich, Maricopa County. More of a sharing with the committee about our experience with the peer group exchange that was took place in New Mexico, Albuquerque. We were lucky at the receiving end of an invitation from the Federal Highway to attend this great peer exchange, peer group exchange meeting, which was hosted by, like I said, LTAP in New Mexico, and it brought many states and local agency in the Western region, and to discuss a lot of different experiences. Sharing is knowledge. We shared our experience too, and I think it is a great venue to consider in general. In the future here, to have an exchange internally within the MAG region, maybe, or the state, is to take a look at things that are available to others or some of the agency members, and to share it with those less fortunate, maybe with the funding. But it was a very win-win situation. I learned a lot, and as well as I shared a lot of experience from Maricopa County. So it was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazen. Glenn,
Thank you. Nothing from Federal Highways.
Mona?
Just to give you a quick update on the Arizona Strategic Highway Safety Plan, we had a busy month and a half between April and May with all the workshop that we have conducted in person or virtually, and also with the public meetings that we have done in between Phoenix, Flagstaff, and Tucson. We completed all that work. Also, that we had a survey that closed in May 17th. We're actually now just collecting all the data and the information. And we anticipate that the plan, the draft of the Strategic Highway Safety Plan will be developed sometime September. And another update on we are currently working on the HSIP implementation plan, and that is due end of June to Federal Highway. And this is a requirement because the state of Arizona did not meet the targets and the safety targets. And then also the special rule, the vulnerable road users, the safety rule applies to Arizona. Also, that means we have to spend 15% or more of our apportionment for the HSIP program on vulnerable road users countermeasures in the year 2025. Another update on the HSIP applications, the call for projects, it closed in May 3rd, and we, as of the update that I just received this morning, we had more than 80 applications that we have received requesting about 34 million for design and 227 million for construction. This is just an anticipated cost. The staff is reviewing, and I personally have not looked at any applications yet, but I added it to my calendar to start reviewing. We just noticed that some of the applications that we have received requesting traffic signals, the agencies or the district did not submit the signal warrant. So we are reaching out for any missing documents that we need. I believe, and also I'm currently acting the state safety traffic engineer until ADOT hire for that position. So we do expect maybe by the next meeting that we would update you guys on the person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Do you want to get the folks?
Yeah, thank you,
Online?
Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. Aaron Pinkerton from Tana Gilbert.
Nothing to add today. Thank you.
Thank you. Austin Kennedy as proxy for Brandon Furry from City of Peoria.
No updates today.
Thank you. Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. One thing Phoenix would like to report that was kind of reported already in the meeting. We did receive a recent grant in the FHWA SS4A application. It is kind of a planning level grant. 3 main corridors that are on our high injury network, 19th Avenue, Northern and Broadway, are going to be looked at in detail to figure out what we can do to improve those corridors. So we appreciate all the help from people in getting that application.
Thank you. Eric Sisek from City of Goodyear.
No updates from the City of Goodyear.
Thank you. Janet Martin from Town of Queen Creek.
No updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Dreneski from Litchfield Park.
Thank you. No updates from Litchfield Park.
Thank you. Michelle Beckley from City of Tempe.
One update today from City of Tempe. The city is pursuing red light running and speed enforcement cameras. This initiative would reinstate some of what we've had previously. We're looking at 10 to 15 locations, and at the earliest, it would be implemented as of October or November of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Nothing to add to. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale.
Hello. Yeah, just one update. Our RFP for our strategic transportation safety plan went out at the beginning of May and will be closing the end of this month. So we're excited to get started on our safety plan.
Thank you. Stephen Chang as proxy for Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Nothing report. Thank you.
Thank you. Cara Harman from Pinal County.
No updates at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward Stanford from City of Avondale.
Nothing to report, but I do need to make a correction. This morning I had said that Raj would be in attendance, or was, but he almost moments after that got pulled out into another meeting, so he has not been in attendance, and I have been his proxy for the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Ward. Mr. Chair, that concludes report by the committee members.
Thank you, Mohammed. Any last comments from any of the committee members before I make a motion to adjourn? Okay, then hearing none, the next meeting of the Transportation Committee will be held in September. I apologize, I don't have a date up here, but with no other business, today's meeting will be adjourned, and it is now 11:39 a.m. The meeting will be on September 24th. Okay, with that, thank you very much for